Good afternoon. My name's Larry Ray. I'm the President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc. I'm here to tell you today that American Manganese could possibly bring in the lowest cost electrolytic manganese metal mine in North America. It'll be the first one in the past few decades. What is manganese? Well, you can't have a steel industry without manganese. If you don't have manganese, you don't have steel. If you don't have steel, the world stops. North America has no manganese. We depend on our neighbors and other countries to import our manganese, and it just doesn't make any sense we don't exploit the resources in our own country. So I'm here to tell you that we are moving ahead with the feasibility study, we're moving ahead with the environmental studies, and we're moving ahead with a massive drill program in order to build the American Manganese, Inc. into the first primary electrolytic manganese producer in the United States. Please visit our website at americanmanganeseinc.com or call us at 604-531-9639. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Money and Wealth Show. I'm Sterling Fox in conversation for the second time on this program with former BC Premier Bill Vander Zalm, here to talk about why we are feeling so strongly about the HST in a very negative way. You've had no difficulty gathering those signatures. In fact, a lot of the media commentators and others watching this process were looking at you in the beginning when we first talked a couple of months ago, Bill, and said, you know, it's pie in the sky. This is never going to happen. And here you are a month away from the deadline with the deal virtually done from an execution point of view. You've accomplished all of that, and even your strongest detractors are admiring the organization. You've got people in British Columbia, in every corner of the province, pretty fired up.
And it's not easy to work with 7,000 volunteers. They're wonderful people. I love them all, and they're great, and we appreciate what it is they're doing. But it's difficult. People will phone me. I get a phone call 7 o'clock in the morning. Mr. Vander Zalm, where can I go to sign the petition?
Yeah.
So my first question is, where are you calling from? Puskapay. I said, I don't know where you can vote or sign in Puskapay. But now we have it on the internet, which makes it much easier. If people go to fighthst.com, they can find out where the locations. So it's beginning to even get better organized, but we've got a month to go and we're going to collect a lot more signatures still.
Well, and again, then that's a safety thing at this point,
it's
right?
It's a safety thing.
Now there are two options. You've got either it goes to the House, the legislature of the province in Victoria. You can either, a committee there will determine it will either go to referendum, which you have identified already as a tremendously expensive process and a very long one, $20 million in a year, or they can draft legislation to remove the HST and submit that to a vote in the House. Colin Hanson appeared after your last appearance with us, and I got the impression, he did not say so verbatim, Bill, but I get the impression that if it goes to the House, the Campbell government will summarily defeat that. They are a majority, they have control of the legislature, you'll have had your process, people will have had a chance to vent. At the end of the day, the House votes to keep the HST and ignore the petition. What then?
Well, first of all, let me clarify too. Before I was given the right to become the proponent for the petition, I and Chris Delaney had to draft the legislation, and it went back and forth between the legal people at Elections BC and ourselves to make sure that it was the appropriate legislation. So it's our legislation that will go to the House.
Okay.
Now, the committee can amend the legislation, or they can recommend it be amended, but that's about as far as it goes. So then if it goes to the House, as you suggest, and they turn it down, which they can easily
Absolutely
do.
They can.
Yep.
They look pretty determined to do just that.
Then we are immediately moving into Plan B, and Plan B is recall. And we can start with the Premier, or we can start with Hanson, or we can start with both, or we can start in other constituencies if we wish it. It was never our plan to create a whole bunch of by-elections and to in fact overturn a government. That was never the plan. So hopefully we won't need to go that route. But if we must, we will. And we would prefer, that is our committee, the strategy team, would prefer to maybe just recall the Premier or Hanson or both. And the reason for that is because this would not change a government. It would not upset things terribly, but it would certainly send a message to the government, and I think they would have to act upon that.
Well, of course, and even if, now we should also explain, I think, and take a quick second here, if a recall petition is successful, that triggers a by-election in that riding that must take place within 90 days.
Correct.
It's also in the law that the incumbent who is being recalled has the right to run again in the by-election.
That's
correct?
Yeah.
So even if you, for example, recalled Mr. Campbell on the west side of Vancouver, Point Grey, he could still be a candidate and run for his old job again.
That's correct.
So what does this accomplish, aside from the obvious, sending a message where the top politician in the province might be forced to suffer a personal setback?
And I think there would be a recognition amongst the other MLAs that, hey, if they can through recall get rid of Mr. Campbell, imagine what it is they could do to us. So I think it would certainly change the mood within the caucus, the Liberal caucus. So I think the recall process is a very effective one.
Now, is there, inside the laws of recall, is there a maximum, Bill, on how many MLAs can be recalled at any one time? You couldn't try to recall the entire Liberal side of the legislature, could you?
Well, you could, but it would be a massive undertaking. You'd have to go into every constituency, and the initiative would have to come from within that riding.
So you're going to cherry pick a couple of key players.
That's correct.
Okay. Do you have a maximum within that mandate?
Well, no, if we recall 8, and they have to go to a by-election and lose, then in fact you change the government. So, like I said, that was never our intent. We were hoping way back when that it would never come to this, but it could, as you suggest. A recall might be the answer in the end.
So, you signed the HST petition, did you? Now look what you've done. We're getting into the thick of it here with former BC Premier Bill Vander Zalm on this week's edition of the Money and Wealth Show. We'll be right back.
Good afternoon. My name is Larry Ray. I'm the President and CEO of Gold Ray Resources Corp., a company that trades on the TSX Venture Exchange and has the majority of its operations in China. We are currently developing a resource there with limited production at this time. Our goal is to increase this production up to about 1,200 to 1,500 tons per day. And to do that, we are negotiating with several Chinese companies, one of which will become our partner either directly into the company or into the project, which will allow us to move the project up to the desired tonnage. For further information, please visit our website at goldray.com or phone 604-531-9639.